You're listening to Seattle Real Estate Podcast.
Would you be shocked if I told you that Portland's plan to use traffic barrels to curb gun violence isn't working according to the data? Would you be shocked if I told you that? I mean, it seems to make sense that if you put in one of those big orange, kind of tall traffic barrels right in the middle of an intersection that, gun violence would drop, right? Because you'd have to drive slower through a neighborhood. Therefore, less people are going to be shooting each other. This is literally something that Portland has enacted to try and curb gun violence. Doesn't appear to be working. And I know you find that shocking. That's what we're going to talk about today. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Sean Reynolds. I own a couple of real estate companies, and I read the news from that perspective. All right. So to evaluate the pilot program, KGW requested a breakdown of calls to 911 dispatchers for shootings and reckless driving related incidents in the area where said traffic barrels have been installed. We're talking about traffic barrels and that this is a solution for gun violence. I find it shocking. However, that's how you get here, right? This is with crazy ideas like this. It's like, okay, yep. This makes absolute sense. Yeah. The city of Portland's most visible response to gun violence, the installation of traffic barrels in a neighborhood plagued by shootings, isn't working, data suggests. 911 dispatchers, we talked about that. In October, City Commissioner Jo Ann Hardesty, yes, the same one who's been sued by Bank of America, defaulted on multiple sets of debt, the one that still insists that she's really good with city funds as she's the city commissioner and she oversees, a good portion of the city's budget. Money's still all good. This is an idea from her. In October, City Commissioner Jo Ann Hardesty ordered the Portland Bureau of Transportation, PBOT, to install traffic calming devices across a 6-block area in the Mount Scott-Arleta neighborhood. Hardesty collaborated with the Portland Bureau of Transportation and nearby residents who had complained about a surge in shootings over the summer and high-speed drivers. So the answer was literally, let's slow down the high-speed driving away from said shootings. That will somehow prevent the shootings. Could you imagine coming up with this plan and spinning this to the city? This is going to be a good idea. This is what we're going to do. This is something that we can do right now to slow down the gun violence. How about the fact that by the time people are speeding away at high speed rates of speed, they've already done the shooting. Whether they go slower or not is irrelevant. And yeah. It's pretty wild that we're even talking about this. The fact that I am podcasting this kind of gives you an idea of how silly things have become. We all could have seen traffic barrels. Yeah, that's not really going to do anything. Well, now we're at that point where we've got some data that says, yeah, traffic barrels, they don't really do anything. So that city commissioner, what's going on? No one is going to say, oh no, local access only. I better not shoot here, said neighbor Rachel Beckman. This is ridiculous. Yep. Sure is. It sure is. The fact that this became an idea and was put into action, could you imagine being the guy from the Department of Transportation and he gets the order up and somebody tells him, oh yeah, now why are we putting the barrels here? Well, it's to stop the shootings. And the Department of Transportation guy is like, what? What do you mean? Can you imagine when, the truck drops them down and they kind of push them around and they get them in place? That guy in his head is going, this is the stupidest effing thing I have ever heard. This is so stupid. I am sure those Department of Transportation workers had that running through their head. They had to have. Because they're like, now shooting, traffic barrel, we're out here on taxpayers' dime. This is what we're doing. They're going to drive slowly away from said shooting because we put up a bear. So the data showed emergency calls about shootings increased, went up, not down, went up as a result of, not as a result of, but after the traffic barrels have been put in place. So they don't appear to be a deterrent at all. I think I talked about that here in a podcast from Seattle, Washington, and we kind of came to the same conclusion that this would do absolutely nothing. But, I guess sometimes you just got to try things on the taxpayer's dollar. And if they don't work out, then you kind of go from there. I don't know. There were 42 shooting-related calls in the 2 months prior to the installation of the orange traffic barrels, compared to 45 calls after. Oh, that's like an 8% increase. What do we got going on here? Maybe traffic barrels increase the propensity to have a shooting. I don't know. Each call does not necessarily reflect an actual shooting, and multiple people might call about a single incident. They're calling one way or the other. So you could say whether it's the 42 from before or the 45 after, they may not be exactly identical. Let's just call it even. All right. So it didn't slow them down. How about that? How about we don't go with the 8% increase, whatever that ratio is or that percentage is? The sad thing is that I'm getting numb to it. This is what somebody is saying. I hear something. I'm like, oh, probably another shooting, but nothing is going to be done about it, said Beckham. Other neighbors support the concept. I'm glad there's an initiative to try something, said Lenore Eklund. Righty. How about something that works, Lenore? What about something that works? How about not just some half-assed attempt at, all right, traffic barrels? Another complaint among neighbors has been high-speed drivers, often associated with shootings. I don't know what it is about these streets. I guess they just look like drag strips to some people, said neighbor Joshua Hansen. How about the fact that they just did an illegal act and now they're in their car, in their getaway vehicle, and they are going to drive as fast as way as possible? We understand that. We understand that. And this isn't rocket science to figure this out. However, traffic barrels? KGW's review of 911 calls for reckless driving found there were 40 reckless driving related calls in the neighborhood compared to 39 after the barrels went up. So about the same, just about identical. So people are calling. If you're in Portland, why would you even bother calling on this stuff? I mean, you know nothing is going to happen. Nothing is going to happen for quite a long time as far as the whole shootings go. I mean, unless people just miraculously, it's the holiday season, we need to really slow this down. You guys stop shooting each other. No, that's just not going to happen. Be realistic, right? Frustrated community members reached out to Hardesty's office this summer seeking an immediate response. We had to act fast. This was the fastest and easiest solution that we could get our hands on right away because we're being exposed to almost nightly shootings, said community leader and neighbor Nadine Salama. Okay, this is the fastest and easiest solution. The problem is that this is clearly not a solution. This is just inordinate waste of taxpayers' money. It just is. I mean, if this worked, you would have traffic barrels everywhere. We would probably eliminate streets. Make them run on foot, and we're going to chase them with a group of armed vigilantes. We're going to get to the bottom of this. Just crazy stuff. And so talking about this as the fastest and easiest solution, it's not a solution. But this is what the community leader is saying. And I understand, hey, you want to do something. But unfortunately, and I've talked about this multiple times, I don't think there is a quick solution to this. So unfortunately, these communities are stuck with this kind of activity until we get some real solutions in place. And unfortunately, it's going to require probably some more police officers on the street. And until we do a major refund of the police, not going to happen. And until we get to a period where they can hire more police or they can train more police, and then you got a bunch of rookies out there. I mean, you've got a situation where this is going to go on for a while because there's no immediate quick response because you can't just, let's just hire a police officer. I mean, there's so much training that goes on in there that, realistically, fastest and easiest solution isn't necessarily a solution. period. Salama believes the barrels have been highly effective in stopping shootings, specifically in the 6-block radius where traffic barrels were installed. But the data seems to suggest otherwise. I haven't seen shootings at all, said Salama. Okay, but got this little thing called data over here. All right, so let's just keep reading. To help evaluate the pilot program and determine whether it's worth expanding to other parts of the city, Commissioner Hardesty's office recently distributed a survey to neighbors within the 6-block radius where the barrels were placed. Results are expected in January. So while we're doing surveys and putting out traffic barrels and all this other good stuff, we've got some crazy crime going on. We've got a record number of homicides in Portland. And this stuff is just going to keep on going. So surveys, traffic barrels, talking about it. Yeah. Installing these barrels alone will not and is not intended to end all gun violence, crime, or speeding in your neighborhood, Hardesty wrote in a letter to neighbors. From police to community-based organizers to the ways we design our infrastructure, we all have a role to play in this crisis. And what I would say is, okay, yeah, we got police, number one. Even though this individual basically said, yes, let's defund the police, and is now dealing with the consequences of going down that road. Oh, God, we defunded the police, and it is not working out. To community-based organizations, yep, you need to get, those are already involved, right? I mean, and when you read about what the leaders of the community-based organizations are saying is they're basically saying, we need to stop shooting each other. Okay. Yes, that agreed. Can't disagree there. To the ways we design our infrastructure. All right. Yeah, I would probably go with more police at the moment. Top priority. That'd be tippy top of my list. And then the other stuff, once you can kind of get a handle on that, then you start to work on this other stuff. We all have a role to play in this crisis. Portland State University criminal justice professor Chris Henning questions the approach of using orange barrels to curb gun violence. I don't think it takes a university professor of criminal justice to work that one out, right? I mean, it just doesn't. But the fact that a professor, agrees with that position, the position that this is probably not the most effective of solutions to quelling Portland's ongoing crazy gun violence issue. Traffic barrels and other traffic calming devices can be a useful strategy for dealing with bad driving behavior, but I just don't see the connection with shootings, said Henning. If anything, it will just send criminals elsewhere. So it doesn't stop. That's the deal. It doesn't stop the shootings. Maybe they're just like, all right, yeah, we can't speed. So we're just going to go a block over. We're just going to do it there. Or they know. They're just like, that area has traffic barrels, kind of a hassle. But, we're just going to do a workaround. It doesn't really do anything to quell the overall problem, which is people are shooting each other at record levels. Okay, so let's keep going here. Oh, nope, that's it. All right. So, yeah, literally, one of the things I was thinking about this morning is I just want news like when I was a kid. Do you know what I mean? You just want to turn on the damn news and have somebody tell you, and maybe I'm just imagining things from my childhood, but I used to turn on the news and I felt like I could, for the most part, trust whomever was the talking head. It was like a major news network. And now I can't trust anything. Nobody. I don't trust any of the news that I read. You know what I mean? There's always a slant to it. And you got to understand the slant. So if you understand the slant, it's like, okay, but you got to always have your filter up. Even watching me, you need to understand I've got my opinions here, and that's probably why you're tuning in. But I approach things from a certain perspective that, it is my individual perspective. And I guess I just want to turn on the news and just have somebody tell me the facts of what is going on. But now we've got news stories like, hey, our most recent approach, and this is what we're doing, and this is something we can get to very quickly, is we're going to install traffic barrels throughout this section of Portland. And you're just left with, this is the best the city of Portland can come up with as a short-term solution. Like, it's a head scratcher. You're just like, really? I mean, it provides me content for days, literally. And I find more and more stuff coming out of Portland that's just, shocking. Some of the stuff with the police department, what they can and can't do. They're not supposed to chase down, people that are running now. They're supposed to use canines and aerial strategies and, call stuff in. And if somebody's running, you basically just let them go. And that's just what we're dealing with, because this is where we're at. Traffic barrels are literally a solution that we're going to throw out there and enact. Yep, take these barrels out there, place them. Here's where we're going to place them. Guys looking at a map going, I don't really want to go there anyway, but I'll just kick those barrels off the back end and just let them land wherever. No, I mean, they're not doing that, but I'm sure they're thinking, like I said earlier, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. This is supposed to do what? So we've heard from, a neighborhood community leader, and they're like, that's working good. And then we've heard from a Portland State University criminal justice professor, no, there's no correlation. You might slow people down, but curb gun violence? No, there's not a causal effect, because if that were the case, and some of the cities, like the entire city of like Memphis, would have one up, on every intersection, right? I mean, wouldn't they? You've just got crazy amounts of gun violence going on right now in a traffic barrel. I mean, these criminals must just be laughing. Like, they put them here. Why? I mean, they've got to look at the news every now and then too, right? I mean, just to keep an idea of what's going on, to get a little heads up on what they can and can't do, because major media just spins it out to them anyway. All the information's always out there. And so they must be looking at this going, this is interesting. How stupid are the leaders in Portland? Well, apparently they just don't have the ability to understand, all right, cause and effect. And that's how we got here. So traffic barrels, it's not looking up. It's not looking like this is a long-term solution. We're going to go back to being reasonable. So when do you think these will get taken down? Maybe this spring of 2022. We're going to leave them up there for another 6 months just to see, what the data says. But right now we've got this, and this is going to put a little heat on the issue, because it's like, hey, that's not working. That's not working. Well, it's the cheapest and easiest solution we come up with. And we know it's not really a solution, but, got to try something. I will give them credit for trying something. But man, that's a push. I'm just trying to be reasonable here. I'm just trying to find a way to justify this in some way, shape, or form. And I just can't. So yeah, here we go. Traffic barrels. It's what we're doing in Portland. Keep Portland weird, right? All right. There you go. Thanks so much for joining me in this episode of the Seattle Real Estate Podcast. I will catch up with you soon. Until then, stay safe. Avoid those traffic barrels, because even though they're made out of that heavy-duty plastic stuff and that rubber stuff, you might ding your car. Don't want that. Not this holiday season. No. Thanks again. We'll talk soon. Bye for now.